Hello everyone and good morning. Welcome back to our introduction to Python. This is video number 4, the last one of the first unit. In the last video we talked about the input statement and we just introduced it. Basically what we did is we set on the screen the message, enter your height to the nearest inch, and it prompted the user to enter a value, and then that value got stored into a variable. We could print that variable. So in general, that's what we did. Today we're going to expand on that topic by including it with different data types like floats and strings. But to get started with that, we're going to have to talk about what floats and strings are. So we have our two main kinds of numerical data types in Python. We have integers, which are our whole numbers, and then we have our floating point numbers, which we call floats for short. And these are our decimal numbers. So when we add, subtract, when we do numerical conversions with these numbers, the float takes precedence because you don't actually have to declare variables as a specific type. So if you're adding 5 plus 5.5, like in variables, then you'll get 10.5, even though they aren't specifically both stated as what data type they are. The float will take precedence in that kind of conversion. But we can also use these nifty functions down here. These are called casting. So we can cast it as an int, or we can also cast it as a float. So to kind of introduce this topic, if we cast this as a float plus 100, normally these are two ints. If I took this casting away, it would print 199, like this. But because I cast this one as a float, this now is going to become 99.0. Because this is a float, the float will take precedence and override this, so it will be 199.0. Pretty simple stuff here. So then we have 1.2 times 2. So you might think that this will be 2.4, but if we cast this as an int, it'll cut off the 0.4 at the end because we're casting it as an int, and it will just be 2. Now if we took that away, we took casting it as an int away, it will be 2.4. So casting is a very important thing. That's why up here when we introduce this input statement, we cast it as an int, but we can also cast it as a float, or any other kind of data type that you might be inclined to use. So moving on, we also have strings. Now strings are a very important thing to get used to because strings are all of our kind of language-based operators. Now strings will never really go away, so it's important that we get that solid foundation on them right now. So let's comment this out. Now we have our user input. Now, this is going to automatically return it as a string. So if I don't put any kind of casting on it, like up there we did this an int, if I don't put any casting on it, it's going to ask, who are you? And what, oh, I had a quick little spelling error here. This is why it's always important to check what kind of content you're getting out of this. That's kind of an important thing that to run over, is that not every time your code isn't always going to run perfectly. So it's all about examining. Like here it said line 79, and I went to that specific line, I found out the specific error, and then I went and fixed it. So it's good to have those kinds of run-ins so you can know how to solve errors on your own. So I can say, who are you, Brett? And then, welcome, Brett. So I can also do, who are you? And I could say, Jake. Welcome, Jake. So it's always going to store that as a name, and that's just going to print that name. Very easy concept with the strings. And then the last thing is all about just more experience with the input function. To get started with this, we have sort of what you guys tackled about printing their age. How old are you? I could say 67, and then it won't work. But if I cast this, how old are you? I'll be 55 in 10 years. It's very important that you can cast it effectively, because if you don't cast it, the code will not run. I could also do it with floats. I could say I'm 55.6, and then I will be 65.6 in 10 years. So whether you want to use floats or ints, just know that whatever type you use, that'll be whether or not you're getting that kind of decimal. Now if I just let this as it is, I can't do anything with that, but if I say 15, it still won't work because it's asking to add that plus 10. But if I just did age, it will be J. So you gotta just know when you're going to try.
Today is Monday, September 13th.
When you're going to try to add with these variables, you just want to make sure that you're using the correct data type. So that's all I really have to cover. Try the concept quiz, and then we will go on to the end of the unit exercise, which will be a unit test and the programming lab. So I'll see you guys then. Have a good one.